And of course the child was crying a lot, so he got worried. He went to that tent and he said to that mother who was awake, he said, why don't you go make your child go to sleep? She said, I'm crying. So he went back. And the child is still crying. And Omar Radiyallahu Anhu went back to the same tent. He says, please, do something for your child. If I can do something for you, tell me. What can I do for you? I'm willing to help you in any way. Make your child go to sleep. Yeah, I'm trying to do that. And he went to her 3 or 4 times. And finally, he went to her and he said, I don't think you're a good mother. I don't think you know how to take care of your child. If this will continue, I will complain in the morning to Umar. She said, you're annoying me. Leave me alone, it's none of your business. And she doesn't know who she's talking to. Leave me alone and it's none of your business. So at least tell me why your child is crying. She says, because Omar Radiyallahu Anhu, who's Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he made the rules for the welfare, people used to get paid. Every person in the Ummah, every Muslim was getting some of the welfare. And he was giving everyone. From Baytul Mal. So she said, Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he made the rules for this welfare, it was such that those children who are still breastfeeding, they won't get anything. And after they will stop the breastfeeding, then they will get, as they will stay on regular food, then they will get the welfare. And for that reason, I'm trying to stop my children from breastfeeding and try to put him on regular food. How old is your child? She mentioned some months old. He said, go and give your child, breastfeed your child, and I will talk to Umar about you tomorrow. Abdul Rahman bin Auf Radiyallahu Anhu says, in the morning, Omar Radiyallahu Anhu went to the masjid. He was leading Salat al-Fajr. No one could hear the voice of Omar Radiyallahu Anhu because of his cry. And he said, throughout the night and after Fajr, I always heard him saying to himself, Omar, you have killed so many Muslim children. Omar, you have killed so many Muslim children. Why did you make such a rule that mothers are forced to stop breastfeeding their children? And he made an announcement, and he made the amendment in the rules, in the laws, that from now on, every newborn child will get that welfare. We won't have to wait until he will stop breastfeeding. At another occasion, Umar Radiyallahu Anhu was going around the streets of Medina Munawwara, and he hears a mother saying to her daughter, اخلط اللبن بالماء, mix the milk with some water. So the daughter said, don't you know that Amir al-Mu'mineen have prevented us from doing that? We are not allowed to mix any more water with the milk, in the milk. And they used to do it, and the customers also knew that they're doing it. But Umar Radiyallahu Anhu made a law that from now on no one is allowed to do it. So the daughter says that Amir al-Mu'mineen have stopped us from doing it. So she said, with the quantity that we mix, Amir al-Mu'mineen won't even know that we have mixed it. Go ahead and do it. And the daughter replied, if Amir al-Mu'mineen is not watching us, the Lord of Amir al-Mu'mineen is watching us. Rabbu Amir al-Mu'mineen yarana. The Lord of Amir al-Mu'mineen is watching us. What are we going to say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment? That what reason we had to disobey Amir al-Mu'mineen? Umar Radiyallahu Anhu said to the person who was with him, his name was Aslam. He said to Aslam, mark this house. Keep a sign of this house. I want to come back to this home tomorrow. Aslam says, I didn't know why does Umar Radiyallahu Anhu want to go back to that home next day. But I found out the next day that after Salat al-Fajr, Umar Radiyallahu Anhu called all of his sons. He said, sons, I have something for you. If any of you wants to get married, I have a good daughter, good girl. And I am selecting that girl for whoever wants it, but I want one of you people to take that girl. So one of his children said, I will marry her, or Amir al-Mu'mineen. So he went to them, he talked to them about it, and they arranged the marriage. We find later on, the fifth Khalifa, the person who's called the fifth Khalifa of Islam, Umar bin Abdul Aziz rahmatullahi alayhi, was the great-grandson of the same family. This mother, that girl, was the great-grandmother of Umar bin Abdul Aziz rahmatullahi alayhi. And here something, a very important point for us to remember. That Umar Radiyallahu Anhu is telling us how to select girls and wives for ourselves and our children. Normally we find out she graduated, mashallah. So that's the most suitable girl for my son. Here Umar Radiyallahu Anhu is telling us, look at these morals. Look at their deen. Look at their iman. Look at their fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they will produce something that people will benefit from centuries to come. And this is what she produced. Umar bin Abdul Aziz rahmatullahi alayhi. And of course, this is always a fact that we find it in the history, that children always, those people who did some great work for Islam, they were always the production of their mothers. We always find that their mothers were the ones who did something special for these children. And because of that, these children became something special in the world. And this is what we find throughout the history. This is why once a scholar was asked, how come we don't have people like Umar bin Abdul Aziz? How come we don't have people like Hassan Bisri rahmatullahi alayhi? Like those great scholars of the Islam, like Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi. So he replied, if we get mothers like their mothers, we will have children like those children also. The thing that we are missing is mothers like those. So we really need those type of mothers to have those type of people. And I was really amazed when long time back when I thought about this point, and I started going back to the history to see great scholars of Islam and how they brought up their starting of their life, how did they come into this field. We always find that all of those scholars, they had a big role that their mothers played in their life to change their lifestyle. In fact, we find many of them who had even lost their fathers at early age, and they were orphans. And mothers were there, had single mothers, and mothers were the only people who were able to bring these children on that direction and put them in that direction and make them get something that even up to this day the Ummah is benefiting from those people. And we can very easily call the name of Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi as an example of this, who was blind in his early age. He was orphaned, mothers crying day and night, praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would give his eyesight back to him. And finally he got the eyesight back. She said, she says to her son, I did not ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you to get eyesight, to go and play now and see all the games in the world. I asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this eyesight so that you can see the book of Allah, you can see the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Go to the masjid, spend your time in the masjid and become hafiz al-Quran. Once he learned Quran al-Kareem, she said, now go out. I don't want to see you until you go and memorize the books of hadith and ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Once you are done with that, then only come back home. Don't come back home without memorizing all the hadith that you can find among the scholars of this town. He went. He started studying and spending all of his time with those scholars in their homes, in the masajid, and finally he came back to his home. He said, Ma'am, I have memorized all the books of Abdullah bin Mubarak rahmatullahi alayhi, who was considered Amirul Mu'mineen fil Hadith in the Ummah. She said, son, now we have one more thing to do. Now you have to go to Medina Munawwara. Go to Medina and Makkah. There are scholars over there. They also have some other hadith. Go and learn the hadith over there and don't come back home until you go to Medina, Yemen, and all the other countries. Wherever you find there is a scholar who knows some more hadith than you do, go and learn the hadith, then come back home. These were the types of mothers. This is what made him the type of person he was, and up to this time the Ummah is benefiting from Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi. And same thing we find in the history of most of these great scholars of Islam who did a great service to deen. So Omar Radiyallahu Anhu, I was mentioning, he goes around in the streets of Medina Munawwara. He's trying to take care of the people at night time, find out what people are doing. And he used to say, if a goat will lose its way in Sham, he's sitting in Medina Munawwara. If any goat will lose its way in Sham and will not be able to go back home or will get hurt, on the day of judgment, Allah will ask me, oh Umar, why didn't you prepare the path for her? And why didn't you make sure that she gets what she needs? This is the type of Khilafah. This was his, we can say, the main theme of the Khilafah. Helping people, helping the Ummah, trying to get the maximum benefit possible to the Ummah. And for that he did anything possibly he could in his life. One last incident, another very important lesson that Omar Radiyallahu Anhu we learned from him. As he was going around the streets of Medina Munawwara, he heard a woman. She was reciting some poems. Those poems meant that I'm waiting for my husband, it has been a long time and I'm missing him. She is just reciting the poem. She doesn't know that someone is hearing her. Right away Umar Radiyallahu Anhu went to his daughter, Hafsa Radiyallahu Anha, who was al-Mu'mineen at the same time, the mother of the Mu'mineen. He asked her, Hafsa, please tell me, for how long a woman can stay without a husband? She said 4 months, Amir al-Mu'mineen, not more than that. Not more than 4 months. Umar Radiyallahu Anhu made it a rule in Medina, in Islam, that if anyone goes out for jihad, for any work of deen, is not allowed to stay out of his home for more than 4 months. Has to come back to his home after 4 months. And then if he has to go back, he can go back. But every 4 months, every mujahid and every servant of this deen, every person who's working for this deen has to go back to his home. And since then, this became a rule in Sharia, or among the Ummah, that people who are out in jihad, they started sending them back. Every 4 months, they will go back to their homes. So these are some of the advantages that we get from Umar Radiyallahu Anhu, who's going around in the streets of Medina Munawwara, watching what people are doing, finding out what people are doing over there, what are the needs of the people, and through that he was able to get us some beautiful rules in the Sharia, and those became the rules for Ummah to follow till the Day of Judgment. And this was his saying always. He used to say to himself and people around him that, remember, whatever we would do at this time, this will become a sunnah and a proof for people that will come till the Day of Judgment. Therefore, we have to make sure that we are very careful in taking any and every step we take in our life. And really, this is a fact, that whatever those people did at that time, and Umar Radiyallahu Anhu took steps at that time, it became sunnah for people till the Day of Judgment. That's a proof for people that this is what Umar Radiyallahu Anhu did, this is what Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in did at that time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to follow these steps of Khulafa al-Rashideen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide all of us to Sirat al-Mustaqim. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله.